Botani and Rokas. So Ghost, who's been running in better races than this, is well found in the market. Is she running well enough to capitalise on the drop in grade, Chris?
She's holding her form pretty well, isn't she, at the moment, Ghost? And she's not really run a bad race so far in her last 4 or 5. She had that disappointing run at the back end of, on the back of her win, and then she had a break, and she's kept on running well. Now, I suppose you can look at her and say she's kept on getting beaten, but the last run was in a slightly higher grade. She'd been running in this sort of class before that, but she had been running well. She was second to Gullum One, who we saw win a little bit earlier on. That was at Doncaster. She finished third behind that horse. The runner-up in that race, Our Little Pony, came out and won at Beverley on its next start. So that form, not too bad. She was beaten by an in-form horse of Nigel Tinkler's called Daffy Jane. So she's been running pretty well, and you'd have to think that she's got a fair chance. And I think that coming back down to 6 furlongs from 7, probably in her favour as well. She maybe flattened out a little bit last time out up at 7, and a return to 6 should suit her.
Ever seen the film Ghost?
Yeah.
Thought you were going to tell me no. Never heard of it. Different generation. I'm surprised at you, Chris. Good man. 2 to 1. Tuscany is 3s here. Paul Cole's 4-year-old, who actually won a couple of races on the all-weather back in the autumn. What since, in your eyes?
Well, he's been in better races for one, so you could maybe excuse him on that. He's been in 0 to 75s or 0 to 80 company, really, since those wins on the all-weather. I suppose you can look at him and say his turf form at the moment doesn't match up to his all-weather form. Both his wins are on the all-weather. He then had a break and ran all right on his return at Wolverhampton. Then 2 starts since then, he's sort of gone the wrong way. You could maybe have blamed the soft ground at Doncaster, but then last time out Newmarket, back on a quicker surface, he was never really in the race, having missed the beat at the start. So he's got a little bit to prove on that front. His wins came over 7. He's down to 6 here. If he ran to his all-weather form, he would have a fair enough chance off a mark £5 lower than for the last of those all-weather wins. And I suppose you look at that and you think, well, the handicapper has taken the view that he's definitely a better horse on the all-weather, and therefore giving him a chance with that £9 lower mark that he's got at the minute. But he wouldn't look well handicapped off 63 on his turf form, would he? So you've got to be taking the view, I suppose, that he wants that he's going to be effective on the grass.
Third in the betting here is Mystery. Actually, it was pretty tight with that one and Miss Mo Brown Bear. Let's deal with Richard Hannon's Miss Mo Brown Bear first, because she's not beaten a horse home her last 2 starts, but maybe you could find reasons for that.
Well, she was at Southwell on her most recent start, wasn't she? So the obvious excuse there is that she maybe wouldn't have handled the conditions, and the time before that at Salisbury, the ground conditions had been fairly deep. She did have a heavy ground run at Newbury earlier on last season that maybe suggested, the way that she went through that race, that she would be okay on a softish surface. She's dropped in the weight. She was initially rated in the low 70s. She's now able to race for a mark of 66. Thor Hammer Hansen, who takes the ride in a £3 claim, early stage of his career, he rode a nice winner, gave one a good ride at Sandown the other week. He takes the ride in this Apprentice Riders race. She just hasn't fired for a good while now, and I suppose you need to take the view that off a falling mark all the time, that she returns a different horse on the back of a break again. And I suppose on the best of her runs, including a placed effort at Redcar last year, you would give her a chance off a mark of 66 now, but it's a little bit of a leap of faith.
They're going behind now. Already behind is Ghost, actually. He's been dismounted. Harry Burns was off her, and now he's back on. You can see they're just about to load up. What about Mystery? What's the case? Because pretty much her cards seem on the table.
Yeah, I think so. We know plenty about her. She's had 18 runs now, and she's been in low-grade races, lower grade than this on occasions, and not got her head in front. She won a race at Lingfield back in the all-weather season when she made all the running under Nicola Curry, who was claiming a valuable £5 at the time. She never really built on that. I thought a bigger player was probably Me Before You for David O'Meara and Patrick Vaughan. second to Daffy Jane last time out, a horse that Ghost has also chased home. Well on top of the remainder. That was a solid enough effort. She hasn't had as much racing as some of these. She's one of the 3-year-olds in the field. She was a winner at Ripon earlier on in the season. I suppose one thing that you could say about her is that her best 2 runs have been at Ripon, a track that not every horse will handle, and she obviously does handle it really well. But she ran well off this mark at Musselburgh earlier on in the season as well, and I think she might be a contender. She's likely to be one of those that's up with the pace alongside the likes of Ghost and Miss Mo Brown Bear.
Right, loading up. They've completed quite quickly. We're on race time. Thanks to Tim.
Dreamboat Annie. Dreamboat Annie, the last one in. All in, they're off. Racing for the finale then, the Davidson's Homes Apprentice Handicap over 6 furlongs. Just ridden out of the stalls was Tuscany in the light green jacket. Lost a few lengths at the start. And it's more or less 6 across the track here. Far left is Miss Mo Brown Bear. Mystery showing a bit of speed with Dreamboat Annie, who's also fairly prominent. Towards the near side, Me Before You, the green and white colours, alongside the white and orange of Ghost. Then we've got Rocus in behind. Tuscany is hopelessly outpaced out the back as they now make their way down towards the final 3 furlongs. Dreamboat Annie just about nudging into a fractional lead. Far side Miss Mo Brown Bear. Mystery still up there. Towards the near side is Me Before You. Ghost is in trouble, being hard ridden about 3-4 lengths off the pace, and it's still Dreamboat Annie who leads. Rocus in behind, trying to make up some ground off that really slow start is Tuscany. Inside the final 2 then, Dreamboat Annie the one to catch. Being hard driven is Me Before You in second place. Mystery just not picking up. Tuscany making some late headway from the rears, beginning to storm home, but has got a lot of ground to make up on this leader. Dreamboat Annie is about 4 lengths clear. Tuscany's now challenging for second place, but nowhere near this leader. Dreamboat Annie, an enterprising ride by Toby Ely, takes the finale. Up for second is Tuscany, third was Me Before You, and they were clear of Rocus.
Nothing got into that bar Dreamboat Annie, with Toby Ely on board, who has scooted home, and that was a positive ride from him. Maybe post wind up, that's been the key to her, combined with the tactics, who knows, but she's absolutely hammered Tuscany and Me Before You are in a photo.
Yep, second start following a wind up, wasn't it? And first time cheap pieces as well for Dreamboat Annie, who hasn't really shown a great deal for a good while, but had dropped a fair way in the weight. She was one of the ones that I don't think we spoke about before, did we? Didn't get down as far as her. Since she won her maiden at Bath last year, she'd basically gone the wrong way, and this was her second start following wind surgery, and it's got her back on track, but it's a long time since she'd shown anything really.
Indeed. Look at Tuscany. It's just outpaced. Miles, he's done well to finish second, hasn't he? If he's got up.
It's a long way back. And the others have to have stopped quite markedly, don't they?
I mean, Me Before You's the horse who's coming to challenge here. At this point, you say Me Before You's going best, and we'll figure in the finish.
Yeah, you would have thought so. Just maybe starts to look as though the winner is going to edge to her right a little bit, but I don't think she does particularly. As you can see, Dara Keenan on Tuscany just keeps pushing along hands and heels really, and the horse steadily runs on, but never going to be able to lay a glove on the winner, but does get past the rest of them who are just beginning to stop. I think they've gone a good old gallop, haven't they? And most of them haven't been able to maintain it. They've got fairly tired, whereas the winner has maintained it and won well. And Tuscany, who was completely outpaced a long way back, has I think got up for second.
The winner trying 6 furlongs for only, I think, the second time in her career. That might be another thing you factor in.
Yeah, and she had dropped in the weights. I mean, she was running off 59. You couldn't really fancy her on her recent runs, but she had been £10 higher last year, and she'd run at Sandown last year and not been beaten that far into fourth one day off that £10 higher mark. So you could make the handicapping case, but her recent form had been really poor. Obviously, on the back of a wind operation last time out, didn't look any better particularly, but second start off that with the headgear on has bounced back to form. And as I say, she's sort of, I think, set a decent gallop. The rest of them have chased it and dropped away, and Tuscany, who was outpaced, has run on a little bit. So I think it's just a case of a well-handicapped horse bouncing back to form with the aid of a wind operation, a £5 claim, and set of cheek pieces.
Step up and trip, yeah. Factored in as well. She go in again?
Well, the apprentice riders race, so they've got the opportunity to go without a penalty, haven't they, if they don't go into another apprentice riders race. It is a weak piece of form generally, I think, but she's won that well, and you would think that given the way that she's won, they're going to have another go without the penalty, aren't they, if they can get her out.
Absolutely right. Well done to Mark Usher and the team. Dreamboat Annie wins at 20-1, beating Tuscany 11-4.